So I thought I'd make a video to break down my experience at the Hershey Comic Con over in Pennsylvania. What's going on, everybody? Justin here, aka No Good Comics, and welcome back to the channel. I want to talk a little bit about my experience that I had this past weekend at the Hershey Comic Con in Pennsylvania. It was my very first time going to this particular Comic Con. I've been out to Hershey Park maybe once, and this was a Comic Con right outside of the area of Hershey Park, if you guys are familiar with Hershey. So it took me about 2.5 hours to drive there from New Jersey, not too bad. And the really cool thing, special thing about this is that my dad actually had a booth set up there. So if you haven't heard or followed my channel before, my dad, he used to draw for Marvel and DC. He still does a lot of independent work to this day, as an artist. And he had a table set up in Artist Alley. It was really cool to kind of see him do his thing again, in the zone. It's been a while since I've attended a con where he's been set up at a booth, especially with the pandemic and everything else. So it's nice to see him back at it. And again, just really in his element. And I could tell he just obviously just loves, what he does and obviously his career, right? I was there with him. I was there with my younger sister, and then also got to meet up with my cousin and her husband as well. So it was a really nice little family reunion, and then also just being able to enjoy a Comic-Con. So for this Hershey Con, like I said, my first time ever going to this one, I wasn't sure what to expect, and it was really cool to just see the variety that it had. It had everything from obviously comic books to different types of toys and toy collectors and vendors selling Funko Pops and things like that. There were a ton of Star Wars and all types of themes as well. And then of course they had a lot of different guests that were there. Comic book creators all around, and they also had some actors and some old wrestlers and things like that were there also. So really cool mix of things. I think that one of the headliners was Tim Seeley, that was supposed to be there. Unfortunately, I think Tim canceled last minute for whatever reason, so he ended up not being at the show. But I was really excited because I had met Scott Beatty, who was one of the creators of Robin Year One, and he's done a ton of other things. But that was someone I was looking forward to meeting. Obviously, my dad being there. Jeff Irshwood was there as well, who did Doctor Strange amongst other things, and a few other notable artists and writers that were there as well. So definitely a good mix. And also I was really taken back by how packed it was. This place was jam packed. So the details of this was, it was at a Hilton, and they did it at like the conference center. So it wasn't like a massive Comic-Con per se, but a nice like personable one where you can really take time to talk to the different creators and things like that, which I prefer, and so it was interesting because like they basically had one long hallway that turned into like an L shape, and that had a bunch of different like vendors and sellers there, and then you went into the main hall, which opened up, and it was like the size of like a hotel conference room, if you picture like a Hilton hotel conference room. So that's where the main event was, and it was cool. My dad actually had like a front row, like front table right when you first walk in. He was the first table that you saw, so it was really nice of them to put him there. And also I should shout out to Joe, the promoter. He's the one that's put this together. So Joe, if you ever watch this, appreciate the Comic-Con that you put together. It's a great one. I definitely want to be back for another one. And thanks for putting my dad right up front, man. It's really, really cool setup for him. So my dad was up front. The place was packed. I remember when I went to go get a cup of coffee, I walked to the beginning of the like the front of the hotel, and the line was way back. Like it was like obnoxiously long. And I know I'm showing some in and out. I'll be showing some clips and things like that. But I was surprised how long this actual line was, even just to get in. The doors opened at 10. It was like 10 to 5. just one day. And so it was great. It was a great turnout, and it was great to see my dad constantly busy, people coming up to his table, him signing autographs, him telling stories. He was doing offering sketches, headshots and things like that. Just again, as I mentioned before, just to see him in his element, really, really cool. And especially at where I'm at right now in life, as a collector and so big of a fan of the hobby. I used to go to Comic-Cons with him all the time as a kid, and I just don't think I appreciated that time being there as much as I do now, especially being such a fan of comics now. So really cool to just see him doing his thing. And heard some really nice, kind words from the fans. And I think this was just a great reminder of how awesome comic book fans are, and to hear these stories of what his artwork and work has just done for them, and why they liked what they liked most. All the different people that were lining up, they all had like his Flash work, his Web of Spider-Man work, like Marvel Team Up 141. I saw a few people bringing that to get signed, things like that, and it was just really cool to really see, again, just like the variety of work that he did. And there were a bunch of books I never saw before either. That was really cool to just see that for the first time. So that was definitely a great experience. And then of course I ran into a few friends from the comic book community. One of them being Joey. Joey does, I think his handle is Joey Does Comics, or Deals Comics. Joey Deals Comics, who I had met before over at Terrificon last year. Congrats to him. This was actually his first show as a vendor, so it was really nice to see him there, wheeling and dealing, doing his thing. So saw him. I also ran into my boy Kevin, aka Jersey Buddha Comics, over on Instagram. Kevin, if you're watching this, man, it was so great to meet you and your daughter. Really nice to just catch up with him. We always talk comics over on Instagram, so it's always nice to just kind of meet new faces, but they're faces that like I've been talking to, in the community and just haven't met in person yet. So it's always good times. And Kevin was such a cool guy, man. Really nice to get to know him more. And he brought some books for my dad to sign as well, which was really neat. And one of the books I want to show here, because I want to give Kevin a shout out too, because he actually gave me an A-OK while we were at the show that I was not expecting. And one of the books that he brought with him, I'm just going to show it here now, was this one right here, Power Man and Iron Fist, issue number 91. So he had brought one with him to the show to get signed. And the reason this is so significant, for me, is my dad did the artwork to this. So when he took his copy out to get signed, I remember thinking, like, I never saw that cover before. I mean, it's a really cool cover, and I'll do some close-ups here. But like, I thought it was a really neat cover, and I've never really explored the Power Man and Iron Fist stories or the comics. So again, didn't realize that this was my dad's work. I love the colors on it and everything. So as he was getting it signed, I'm like, man, I gotta get that issue. I don't have that. I'm always up, to try to any books that my dad has ever worked on, I try to own them, and I don't own all of them. So it's a nice surprise when I learn something new about it, and I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna hunt that down at some point. And so afterwards, we were talking for a while. Him and his daughter left. They went walking around. And then we kind of like didn't catch each other again later on, and I ended up walking around and stuff. So, but before he left, he dropped this book off to me, which he found another copy, while he was hunting. So, Kevin, thank you so much, man, for making that happen. It's really cool. Very convenient that we were just talking about it. You found it before you left, and I appreciate you dropping it off at the table and hooking me up, man. So thank you so much for that. And I also want to point out another really cool thing about this book that my dad was telling us about when he was signing Kevin's copy was this guy right here. If you can see that here, I might have to do a close-up. But my dad was telling me that he based this character off of the wrestler Jimmy Superfly Snuka from WWF back in the day, and I thought that was really cool. I had no idea that it was interesting to hear that was like some of his inspiration and ideas that he got while he was working on comics in general, and developed this character. And so just thought it was a really cool thing. I don't know if anybody would have known that otherwise. Just without hearing that story. So really special. Again, like for me, just it's always so cool to hear my dad, especially giving out like stories I've never heard of, things he's never really shared with me because I was never into comics up until 4 years ago. So, for him to share this stuff, it's always, it's just, bonding on a different level now at that point. So really cool to hear that story. And I'm glad, Kevin was part of, being there for that and sparking the conversation. So, Kevin, thank you so much, man. And, if you guys don't follow him, you certainly should. I'll put his information in the description below, Jersey Buddha Comics over on Instagram. So really good stuff. And it was cool to just run into some folks, some friends, and catch up with people. I was talking to some of the vendors that were there, people I've never met before. There were a couple other artists that were kind of up and coming artists that were there as well. In some of the clips that I've been showing through this video, you might have seen them with the Joker, him painting the Joker and the Batman and stuff like that. So really cool overall. And I have to say it was just a really good time. Though if there was like one flaw that I felt for this show, it was was the hallway, the way that they had vendors lined up around this like L-shaped hallway. It was kind of hard to get through that because, you know, so many people were stopping and you know, checking out all those different tables. And if you're trying to get around, it was kind of hard, especially in the beginning. I noticed as like the whole crowd came in, it was really hard to kind of get through that one L-shaped hallway. But once you got into the main, you know, area or the main Comic Con, you know, it was much more open and easy to walk through. So, but other than that, it was all awesome. And I definitely want to go back again. I think next year, the promoter, Joe, he was saying that they're doing a 2-day instead of a 1-day. So I think it's going to be like July 1st, July 2nd, something like that next year. So keep an eye out for that. If you're in the area or if you're, you know, Jersey, New York area, maybe you're 2.5, 3 hours away. I think it's worth the drive to go out there for the day. And like I said, if they're doing it 2 days, then I think it'll definitely even be worth it for that. And, you know, you can stay overnight or whatever. By the way, I wanted to add in too that they had a whole cosplay contest. I know as I've been showing some of these videos, I'm sure you've seen people dressed up walking around. I just love that environment. I love seeing all the people that participate in cosplay. While I'm not brave enough to do it myself, I think it's really cool to see the creativity that people come up with, their own, you know, gear and everything that they make. Some of them make it themselves. So it's really, really neat. And I took some pictures of some of them as they were walking by, and a couple selfies as well. So just wanted to mention that if you are into cosplay, this Comic-Con is definitely for you as well, because they had a really big contest at the end. There were a bunch of people in the hallway, you know, showing off, you know, what they had made, or, you know, they're giving them really prizes and giveaways and things like that. So it was just a lot of fun. There were a lot of families that were there, very family oriented, you know, Comic-Con, as they should be. So, but I wanted to note that as well. But yeah, so that was kind of the experience. The other book I did want to mention real quick before I wrap it up. I mentioned before that I met Scott Beatty. He was there, and so I actually got to meet him, and I bought this nice hardcover edition of the story. So if you've never read this 4-issue miniseries, I highly recommend checking it out. During my, I was gonna say during my my exploration of learning more about Dick Grayson and just, you know, Robin as a whole, this was one of the first that I read, and I have to give a shout out to Kavi, Comic Books NYC, and JP over at JP Collects, because I did a breakdown with them over on their channel. What they do their show over there. I think it's called Gotham City Chronicles, and they break down a bunch of different Batman or Batman kind of, you know, genre type of comics. So this was one that was on the docket for them. They invited me to talk about it. It was a perfect jumping in point, as I've been obsessed with Nightwing. So just to kind of get some backstory with Robin was really, really cool. And so, yeah, Scott Beatty and Chuck Dixon did the writing, and Javier Polito did the artwork here. And yeah, so I just wanted to stop and talk to Scott. He was really nice. Took a picture with him. He signed that right there for me. So again, Scott, if you ever watch this, appreciate you, man. Hopefully I'll see you at the next show. Really down to earth, you know, easy to talk to. And yeah, if you guys are not familiar with some of this stuff, I mean, I think this was like one of the main covers there from, I think, issue 1, issue 2. I should just take it out of its sleeve here for a second. So yeah, there's the hardcover, nice hardcover edition. And I'll just, you know, kind of pull up some of this stuff here, but really, really, really good read here. I definitely recommend it if you haven't already. And again, just giving a little glimpse to Robin here. So yeah, so that was it. Those are, and believe it or not, those were the only things that I bought. They're not even bought. This I bought. You know, this was A-okayed by Kevin. So those were the only two items that I actually got. I meant to buy. There was a Lego like a Lego vendor there. I meant to buy a couple of minifigures. I totally forgot at the end of it. I had gone out to lunch with my cousin afterwards, and just kind of lost track of time. So kind of missed out on the last bit. By the time I showed up, a lot of them were kind of just getting ready to wrap up. But yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun overall, and I do recommend it. So again, shout out to the promoter Joe over at Hershey Comic Con. He puts this together, you know, every year, and like I said, he's gonna do it next year, 2 days. So looking forward to it as well. Not too bad of a drive, so I'm down. But I said earlier, leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know if you've been to the show before, if you were there this weekend. That'd be really cool to hear that you were there. And let me know if you're interested in going next year. It'd be really cool to see some other familiar faces. So, but otherwise, that's it. That's all I have for the video today. Just wanted to go over my experience at Hershey Con. So appreciate everybody watching right now. Take a moment, smash that like button on the way out. And until next time, I will talk to you later.